as we now switch our attention to the women's race coming up here in about 10 minutes from now. Another loaded field. If we can, I don't know if we can go back and look at the course map once again, just so you can have a flavor of the setup of the race course here. It's a little bit of a shorter distance of 6 kilometers, same track, and the conditions here are certainly warranting a good fast race. There's no damage done to the course given the conditions that we're in.
No, it should be a terrific race, Paul, and it should be a couple degrees even cooler than what the men had. And a shorter distance. So I'm expecting some quick hoofing out there for this race.
So let's talk about the women that are here on the team side. It's a bit more of a national flavor with the women's squad. We have 5 ranked teams in the country, including the highest ranked squad, which is the number 4 Arkansas Razorbacks. Couldn't find a hotel in Eugene because of the upcoming football game, and it's move-in week. So Coach Harder's got them up in Corvallis, just coming in for the race and then leaving. But we expect them to be very competitive against this very deep field of women.
Well, that's a good stat. And Coach Harder, 32nd year at Arkansas. And I can remember when he was coaching at Cal Poly, so that shows you how old I am. But yes, Arkansas is ranked 4th in the nation. And, you know, what's a bit deceiving about Arkansas, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on them, is that they didn't run very well at the NCAAs last spring, but that's because it was hard. They were really pointed towards winning the indoor championship, which they did. They have no such conflicts this year, so that 4th may actually be a little bit low for them. And then we have a couple of other big ones, Boise State, Colorado State, who has 3 super runners that we'll talk, I'm sure, more about, Oregon State, and Louis Quintana's done such a great job up there, and then Portland. So we've got some really nice teams. This one should be really even closer than the men's race was, probably behind Arkansas. And we can't forget that the Oregon Ducks themselves, the host school, are ranked 24th in the nation as well.
Snuck into that top 25 this week at number 24, 1 spot behind. You mentioned the quality of what they're doing and brewing in Corvallis, as they're 1 spot above them in the standings at number 23. So let's talk about some of the individuals, and I guess you have to start with the Razorbacks, very deep, and they've got a lot of options to field a team of 5 strong runners.
Absolutely. Chrissy Gear, who is just a workhorse for Arkansas and has been since she transferred there from Furman. She ran the 1,500 and the steeple at the Olympic trials, so she qualified in both. She was 2nd at the NCAA indoor mile and in the distance medley relay, and then a couple days later ran 21st at the NCAA cross-country championships. So it shows you she is one workhorse. Lauren Gregory, her teammate, don't sleep on her. She was 2nd at the NCAA's indoors in the 3,000 and was a distance medley relay teammate of Gear. I didn't put it on our list, but hopefully we'll get a chance to see Taylor Ewert, the best young walk prospect the United States has ever had, and she is running well for Arkansas, so hopefully we get a chance to see her. A couple other people I like, Kaylee Mitchell, a sophomore from Oregon State who was brilliant last year in cross country, 7th at the Pac-12's, 20th at the NCAA's. Anna Pataki from Hungary, a senior for the University of Portland. She won the WCCs this past March. And then finally, my dark horse, Addie Engel, a freshman from Ohio State who beat some big names like Erica Vandelende and Abby Cahoot-Jackson and Caitlin Hart in the Harry Groves Spiked Shoe Invitational, where she finished 4th. A young freshman. She's got a lot of gumption, so I think she may fit into this somewhere. And it's nice that Ohio State traveled all the way out from Columbus to Eugene. I wish the football team had done that last year, but c'est la vie.
Well, with tongue firmly in cheek, hopefully the women's cross-country team at Ohio State is more competitive than their football team against the University of Oregon. Can only do that because the scoreboard doesn't lie. We are set to go with a very deep and quality field on the women's side for this 2021 Bill Dellinger Invitational. We'll step aside for a quick break, and we'll have the racing on the other side. Back with the call of the women's 6 kilometer at the Bill Dellinger Invitational right after this. Sixth and final round of the competition. She needs a big one here to get on the podium. Look at that release. Feeling athletic? Get the Athletic app.
steps into the ring for his final attempt. He'll need a big throw to regain the lead. It's looking good. Feeling athletic? Get the Athletic app.
Sorry, it all happened so fast.
I looked at it last night.
Just fourth period with Go Brandon! Go Buck!
Withrow for your 1440 through 5K. Nicole Blood of University of Oregon.
Of the Ducks, she'll be third in her.
Here's the final handoff. They were a little shaky in the prelims, but they get away clean here. Feeling athletic? Get the Athletic app. Athletic TV brings you the largest collection of instructional videos for coaches and athletes on the planet. Learn from top industry professionals in over 40 sports and fitness categories. Sign up today at athletic.tv and get 14 days free.
Save my cat!
Whoa, I got it.
He passed on the last height, leaving everything up to this third and final attempt. Here's the takeoff. Beautiful form. Can he get there? Feeling athletic? Get the Athletic app.
You need to get your hips up.
He needs to improve 3 centimeters to get back in front. And here's the approach. He's got great speed. Takeoff looks good. Feeling athletic? Get the Athletic app.
How dare you!
Sorry. And back to Pine Ridge Golf Club in Springfield, Oregon, as we get set for the second race of the afternoon at the 2021 Bill Dellinger Invitational. Paul Swangard joined by Tom Fuhrer as we see the women lined up at the start line. You know, I think the other thing just to appreciate, and we've been doing this, you know, we were doing it in coverage of other events in the tail end of the track season, and, you know, coming back from my experience in Tokyo where all that amazing performances were happening in empty stadium. It's just great to see competition getting back to some semblance of normal. Good crowd on hand here today, and teams that quite honestly haven't seen each other in a couple of years now having a chance to compete with each other.
Great point, and I want to bring up one team that is unranked but has dynamite talent, and that is Utah. Now, Poppy Tank is not here. She's one of the top distance runners in the country, but Kyle Kepler's got 3 of them, Simone Pleward, Emily Venters, and Bella Williams, who can factor into this absolutely if they are fit. And nobody knows. That's why they went unranked. Nobody knows what kind of fitness they have, but boy, if they're on, they're going to be tough.
So 6:40 local time on the West Coast, getting into the tail end of a very pleasant early fall afternoon. This is kind of the weather that often we all say is the best time to be in Oregon. Crisp, cool evenings, but still 70 degrees or so at the start of this race as the women settle into their 6-kilometer 3 trips around this setup on the golf course.
And right on cue, there's 4 Utah athletes right in the front. Kyle Kepler, you know, again, he was kind of keeping his cards close to the vest. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But, boy, if all their people, and I know Poppy Tank isn't here, but if all their people are on, they're one of the top 10 teams in the country.
So, Tom, would you expect after seeing how the men's race played out that sort of for the first, you know, call it half of the race, it was fairly large packs of runners, and then those who decided to take control did so at that time, but no reason to do it early.
I totally agree with that, Paul. And I would imagine, too, that depending on the coach's instructions, like you don't see any Arkansas runners at all up there, but we know that they're going to factor very heavily into this. I would imagine that maybe there have been some instructions for some athletes to run with some other athletes and things of that nature, at least early on. And so I think you will see some of that.
Yeah, in some ways, it's the beauty of this version of the sport in that it isn't really about time. It is about place and letting that race sort of unfold in front of you, and maybe a good experience builder for Arkansas. You can see some of the coaches say, just
slow
relax.
it down.
Yeah, we're not in any hurry here.
Yeah, slow it down. One of the people that that's kind of an interesting story, and I believe that is her there in the middle, is Carly DeRostiker, a freshman from UCLA. She won the UCLA-UC Riverside tri-meet and UCSD, but she was 6th at NXN cross country in 2019. Didn't run for UCLA last year, but she's really good, and I kind of exchanged messages with Devin Elizondo, who's UCLA's head coach, and he's very high on her.
Yeah, we mentioned it during the men's race, the uniqueness of how they, and credit is due that they got all these different seasons into the collegiate window, but the resulting reality for these runners was in many cases a choice between pursuing the cross-country season or pursuing the indoor track season. You mentioned in our preview on the women's side that Arkansas as a team sort of made a conscious decision, and now probably coming out to Oregon to say, hey, we're back in the normal gear of our fall sequence, and we want to show that we're ready to run and that we are a top 5 ranked team.
Without a doubt, and in Oregon's men, a similar situation. You know, they put everything into the NCAA indoor, and they won the NCAA indoor. Arkansas put everything into the NCAA indoor. They won the NCAA indoor. But it would have been fun to see how Cole Hawker or Cooper Tier would have done in cross country. But, you know, and I don't think any coach really liked the setup. Nobody was really happy with how close those 2 championships were, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, a lot of organizations forced into making difficult decisions as it related to staging events and staging championships, and again, hoping to look forward rather than look back here in 2021. The fall cross-country season is back in its normal fold. As we kind of look at the group coming across the line now, look at some of those leaders. Julia Patterson of Arkansas, Emily Venters of Utah, Izzy Thornton-Bott was one of the unattached athletes, will not factor into the team scoring. And then Anika Thompson of Oregon, the top duck runner so far. Hannah Reinhardt also running unattached. And then Cal State Fullerton's Trinity Rulas.
Yeah, and a couple of interesting things on the early results. I don't know if you noticed when they were running past, but like almost the entire UCLA team was together. And that went back to what I was telling you before, where the coaches will tell their athletes sometimes, hey, run together as a pack. And but what we are seeing is Arkansas's people are starting to move up, and you know, they're so deep, it's almost impossible for them to lose this thing.
So populate for you as we get through some of our splits of the projected team scores as they existed at that moment, waiting for their 5 runners to all come through to populate their scores, with Arkansas leading here early, Oregon, Utah, Boise State, and UC Davis rounding out the top 5. It's still a lot of running to go here on this golf course in Springfield.
To the left in the white singlet is Emily Venters of Utah. Now, there is a very liberal transfer policy in the NCAA now. Emily Venters is on her 3rd school. She started out at Boise State and then went to Colorado and is now at Utah. She has a lifetime best of 15:45.09 at the 5,000, and that's hoofing it. She was 11th in the 2018 NCAA cross country, so she's a legit runner. And she was 9th in the IAAF World Under 25,000 in 2018. So that's one of those athletes that I was mentioning at Utah. If she is healthy and on, she is going to be a factor.
Well, Utah perhaps suggesting that there's a battle brewing for supremacy in the state of Utah with the consistent success that we're seeing from the BYU program. Utah trying to counter here and would like nothing better than a strong performance at the Bill Dellinger to get their motivation and confidence going through the remainder of this 2021 campaign. Over 7 minutes in now on this women's race. Again, 6K the distance on the women's side. Top 5 will constitute the team scoring. Still a rather large group of women here in the lead group. Maybe a little bit of a separation starting to happen between the front and the back of the pack as they work their way across the fairway.
One of the shots we had, and I think we may get it here again real quick, in the purple of the Portland is Anna Pataki, one of the ladies that I was speaking of in the Open. And Anna was 31st at the NCAA in March, which is really good. First in the WCC. She was 14th at the Dellinger meet 2 years ago, so she knows this course, and she has lifetime bests of 16:01 in the 5,000 and 33:11 in the 10,000. So I like her chances, and she looks very comfortable there in the Portland purple. And that's Bella Williams that just ran past us into our living rooms. Bella Williams from Utah, one of those seniors from Utah, she was 7th at the Pac-12 Cross Country Championships in 2019, and she's run 10,000 and 33:17. So it's nice to see some of these athletes that have been injured or have struggled, Paul. And with the pandemic and everything else, I love seeing these older names like Venters and Williams come back to the fore.
So still a group of 20-plus women here in this lead pack, trying to create a bit of a separation from that second group. As they close in on the 9-minute mark, should get a reset of some of the top runners here in the field as they cross the timing mats here shortly.
And Paul, after the second split, Arkansas at 55 points, Utah at 78, and Oregon at 104. And Taylor Ewart, who I was mentioning to you, nicely settled into the number 19 spot.
Yeah, Venters officially the leader at about 8 minutes and 20 seconds into the race. And then the two unattached athletes, Thornton-Bott and Reinhardt, and then back to Pataki and Nima Kimtai in a tie effectively for fourth. Kimtai, the Washington State athlete, sort of emerging from behind Thornton-Bott, who's in that striped singlet in the middle of picture. Reinhardt in the dark kit on the right side of your screen.
You know, a little note about some of these classes. So Nima Kimtai is a freshman, but like everybody else, they got a free year. You know, hey, let me go to...
We didn't get a free year.
We didn't get a free year. So she's a second-year freshman, just like everybody out there is a fifth-year senior, or most of them are. Nima Kimtai won the Washington State Cross Country Open, and she's legit. She was 20th at the Pac-12's this past March. She has run 16:31 for 5,000. So Nima Kimtai is a good, solid runner. Is she going to win this race? Probably not. But can she finish in the top 10 or 15? Maybe.
Through that second split we had for you at about the 8:20 mark, team scoring-wise, Arkansas with a comfortable lead on Utah, 55-78. Oregon was third at that moment. Two women in the top six, but then a 12th place finisher, and then had to go back to 34th and 47th. So a lot of racing still left, and that ever important kind of finish to the third, fourth, and fifth place runners ultimately will be the deciding factor in this team race.
Okay, and now I see Lauren Gregory moving up. So you see the blonde hair whipping back and forth in the red? That's Lauren Gregory. And I mentioned it a little bit in the Open. She is, she's got a very good kick. And this is kind of typical of her running style. Let me move up through the pack. Let me feel things out. But Lauren Gregory is definitely a threat to win the individual title here, without a doubt. So good to see Emily Venters back running and healthy, though, I must admit. Just terrific.
Clock goes past the 12-minute mark on the women's side. 6K the distance at the 2021 Bill Dellinger Invitational. One of the top Northwest regional meets each and every year, but drawing some firepower from elsewhere around the country, most notably on the women's side, Arkansas and Ohio State.
Paul, the diminutive athlete to the left with the red shorts and the blue top is Trinity Ruilas of Cal State Fullerton. Trinity won the Mark Covert Classic earlier this year. She was third in the Big West Cross Country Championships in 2019 and sixth in 2018, and she's run 16:29 for 5,000. So Trinity Ruilas with the red shorts and the blue top is right there.
And a similar point in the course where we saw Cooper Tier kind of start to make his move when they kind of reach some of these undulations in the hill. Venters trying to insert some pace here. Pataki trying to cover that move, and then right next to Pataki, Thornton-Bott running unattached.
And Lauren Gregory next to her.
Kecklock of Utah also up in the mix here, but again, the pace now starting to quicken, and Venters trying to assume control of this race now.
Well, one thing that I can say, Paul, with certainty, and it may be the only thing, is the USTFC AAA rankings will have Utah in them this week.
Can you say anything with uncertainty?
Many things with uncertainty.
Who's going to win this race? I think, still it looks like Venters is running very strong, but
I would put my money on her or Lauren Gregory. And the only reason I say that is Venters is still a bit of a, we haven't seen her run and in a long time. So she's got credentials, and it's great to see her back and healthy, and she may continue to pull this thing away. But I like Lauren Gregory, of course, because I know she has a very strong kick.
Well, and right now, if you look back to the team scoring at that last split mark we had, Utah has now moved into the lead over Arkansas, at least at that moment. So that could be another piece of the surprise that has been brewing.
Wow.
And you see it there now confirmed on your screen. Utah with 45 points at our last split. Arkansas, Colorado State, Portland, and Oregon State rounding out the top 5.
Well, this is national news. The fact that Utah's back, not in a single ranking, not in the West Regional rankings, not in the national rankings. We knew something was funky. And this is without their best runner, Poppy Tank. If I'm anybody in the Pac-12 right now, I'm thinking, and the host of the Pac-12s is Utah this year. So Kyle Kepler, he kept people around because he knew he's running on his home course. That's Keela Barger of Utah, by the way, who is their 6th runner today.
That was kind of like keeping the Runner Space Studio top secret. We could only hold that secret too long, and maybe Utah can't keep a secret any longer. They've put together a nice squad here for this Bill Dellinger Invitational. Venters now getting a little bit of a challenge by Thornton-Bott, but hasn't been able to shake Pataki or Gregory of Arkansas. 4 women at the front here as the crowd begins to gather to cheer them into this final stretch of the race.
They all look pretty good, Paul. If you look at their facial countenance and their turnover, they all look like they're pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they have about 4 seconds on that second group behind them, led by Reinhardt, the unattached athlete, and then top performer from Oregon State, Kaylee Mitchell, Rulas of Cal State Fullerton, and then Port of Utah makes it 2 in the top 8. And then Utah rounding out their top 5 in a pack, Kecklock, Williams, and Woolnough, 11th, 12th, and 13th right now. And Utah, kind of pulling the grips now on the rest of the field on the team side. Utah with 37 points at that last split point. Arkansas second, Colorado State third, with Portland and Oregon State rounding out the top 5.
And the person that's made the biggest move has been Kaylee Mitchell of Oregon State. You can see her in the distance. She heads up that second pack, and she ran a really nice, she's running a really nice race here. Again, she was 7th at the Pac-12s this year, and she was also 3rd at the Pac-12 steeplechase during track season.
So if you're just joining us, that is not a mistake on your screen. The number 4 ranked team in the country, the University of Arkansas, currently trailing Utah in the team scoring through our penultimate split of this 6-kilometer race. The racing up in front for.
And I think Lauren Gregory's ready to go. I think she's ready to make her move. As I mentioned before, Paul, I've seen her have just a really nice kick in track races. One would assume that she could do the same over hill and over dale.
Now has about a stride on Thornton-Bott, who hasn't given up hope of trying to close that gap right now, but Gregory looking very strong as the turnover on the stride continues to quicken.
Boy, she sure does look strong. And again, this is somebody that has proven it on the track, second at the NCAA Indoor in the 3,000 and as a part of the distance medley relay. She was 4th in the SEC Cross Country Championships this past fall, and it looks like she may end up winning the SEC Cross Country Championships this fall.
So a single file line for our top 4, with Gregory, Thornton-Bott, and then back to Pataki of the Pilots of Portland now in 3rd, and Venters, who had run a very good race and had led most of the way, beginning to fade just a bit. Going to try to hold on to that 4th position as Utah thinking now more about the end result for the entire team, which is a potential upset here in Springfield, Oregon at the Bill Dellinger Invitational. But right now, Arkansas's top runner trying to take control of this race. Lauren Gregory into the final few moments of this race. Some of the men who just competed earlier there on the side trying to cheer their teammates on. But nearing the 20-minute mark in this race, they'll now move to the inside and storming into the final chute to the finish.
Great turnover. Looks terrific. Look at Thornton-Bott.
Well, Thornton-Bott has found a gear. So has Pataki. And just when we thought Gregory had it in the bag, does she have something to react to? And it does not look like she does, as Izzy Thornton-Bott comes into the final strides and will take the win with a come-from-behind victory, as an unattached athlete does not factor in the team scoring. Gregory holds off Pataki for 2nd. And then Utah's top runner comes in 3rd. And look at the Utes in tow as they finish behind in rapid-fire fashion, as Utah goes 4th, 5th, and 6th.
And 11th. And 19th. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant performance. And Utah, again, without Poppy Tank, I can't say it enough, this team is loaded.
And waiting for the top 5 to come across the line for every team so that we can confirm the final results in the team standings as we look at the sea of humanity running towards the finish line here in Springfield.
And Paul, a shout out to Laura Pellicoro, the freshman from Italy, from Portland, who finished 7th. That's a nice performance by a freshman. She's a 2:05, 4:15 runner, 800, 1500. That's a really nice performance for her.
Well, with the 5 top runners now scored through the top 8 could be some changes in the top 8 finishes. In fact, Ohio State has just moved up into 8th position overall. It is now confirmed the Utah Utes are the 2021 Bill Dellinger Invitational cross-country champions. On the women's side, 38 points for the Utes as they overtake Colorado State. That closes the gap on Arkansas and actually finishes in 2nd. Arkansas, the 4th-ranked team in the country, will wind up in 3rd. Portland in 4th, and Oregon State in 5th. The host Oregon Duck women, 24th in this week's national rankings, will finish in 6th. But you made it a strong point there earlier on, Tom. The headline coming out of this, at least on the women's side, is the Utah Utes might actually be better than the rankers last week thought they were.
Not only the rankers last week, but every week since the beginning of the cross-country season.
Shame on the rankers.
Shame on the rankers. What's going on with these rankings? There's a lot to unpack here. It's really, Colorado State finishing 2nd. That was a really nice performance by them. Their big 3 came through. Lauren Offerman finished 15th. Lily Tomasula Martin finished 9th. And Annabelle Stafford was 18th. So Colorado State really did a nice job in that race as well.
Well, let's watch the final few athletes come across the line. Look like one good sign of sportsmanship here as they're trying to get the last runners through to the chute and the finish line as the women's race for the Bill Dellinger Invitational concludes. So some great racing from Pine Ridge Golf Club in Springfield, Oregon, as we bring you back inside the Runner's Space Command Center, the studio. I don't know, we haven't got an official title for this place, but it's spectacular, and it's been great to be able to unveil our studio set for you for the very first time, and symbolic that we were able to do it during the course of the coverage of this Bill Dellinger Invitational. It was the very first covered event we did 14 years ago on runnerspace.com, and as we would expect it, this event delivered. Storyline on the men's side, I think, was what we expected, with Cooper Tier performing very well along with the Oregon men. But we end the evening with the shock. So there's some good dichotomy between the 2 races we saw today.
Well, Paul, we have these things called dope sheets in track and cross country and everything like that, where we try to predict what is going to happen. And those of us that do that kind of stuff are dopes because of what we saw out here today, which was, wow, Utah all of a sudden went from 0 to 100 just like literally in 20 minutes. And so that was really exciting to see. And I think Arkansas will be okay. What I don't see here in the finishers was Chrissy Gear, so maybe she didn't start, and that makes a big deal. So I think Arkansas will still be okay, and it's early. I look at like where Kaylee Mitchell ended up finishing and this and that and the other thing. Some people, as you know, they know when to peak, and they know when to peak at the right time of year. And this is a great meet, and it's great if you're Emily Venters to finally get out and do your thing for the first time in forever. But, there's still a lot of running to go this fall.
Another wise man once said you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them and when to show them. And I think in the case of Utah, they decided, let's show them, and now the secret's out. So that's a strategy that, why would they choose this opportunity to kind of make the case that, hey, we're not ranked. We just knocked off some good squads, albeit maybe a runner or 2 down, but still performed at a level that should be warranting of a ranking next week?
I think they'll end up being ranked in the top 10 or 12. Because, again, Tank didn't run, and that gives them another added boost. But I think at some point you have to take the wraps off, and you have to see where you are. You know, you can only train so much, and we have a bunch of runners that work at Runner Space who I know can appreciate that, right? You can only do so much training. At some point, you've got to see what it is that you can do in a race. I think Kyle Kepler, after today, is going to go, can I pinch myself? Because my people are ready to roll. And again, they're hosting Pac-12s at altitude. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't win the thing.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how that season unfolds as the college season on the cross-country side getting started in earnest. The great part of for us now is to be able to enjoy a lot more action on runnerspace.com in the weeks that follow. We'll include the coverage of the collegiate races as well, but wanted to also remind you that our next live broadcast is the Nike Portland XC that will come your way live on Saturday, so be sure to check our website for details on the timing of that. But again, the beginning of the rollout of a very busy season. I think we all we have these regular Tuesday meetings. We have this Google Doc that we look at all the production that's upcoming, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming, and trying to add value to our subscriber base, which we thank you tremendously for all this support you've given us over these 14 years, and there's a lot more reason to be a subscriber moving forward.
Oh, no kidding. My gosh, yes. In fact, if I can kind of do something self-serving, because I'll be working on the chili pepper next week. So that's one of the great cross-country meets in the Southwest, maybe the best, and Runner Space has that. I also want to really amplify a point you brought up earlier, Paul, and that is, man, how good was it to see a crowd out there?
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that was so inspiring, and I'm sure for the athletes as well. But great point. I mean, we're back. We're back.
Yeah, and we're already committed to trying to do as much of the coverage that you've come to know and love about runnerspace.com. Some of the names that you just saw on the screen, such an important piece of the puzzle, because we obviously get the FaceTime, but there's so many people behind the scenes that are putting this together, and the logistics of covering cross-country and then indoor and then outdoor season is just a testament to not only the talent behind the scenes, but also the commitment and the passion for the sport of track and field, road racing, and cross-country. And a special thanks on this start of year 15 to our founder and CEO, Ross Krempley. We've done you proud, hopefully, on this day, and it was fun to pull out the coverage back in 2007. I wonder what he would critique himself about now, given his standards for production in 2021. But I hope you enjoyed the coverage of the 2021 Bill Dellinger Invitational. For Tom Fuhrer, I'm Paul Swangart. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time right here on runnerspace.com. Have a good evening, everybody.